From 1953 to 1957, the University of Oklahoma won an extraordinary 47 college football games. The coach of the Sooners during that streak was the legendary Bud Wilkinson, who won 3 national championships, 12 consecutive conference titles. Bud Wilkinson retired from football at the age of 47 and went on to serve 5 U.S. presidents and to run for the United States Senate. His son, Jay Wilkinson, has written a book about his father called simply Bud Wilkinson, an intimate portrait of an American legend, and I'm very pleased to have him here. Welcome.
Thanks, Charlie. Nice to be here with you. Good to see you again.
Jay Wilkinson and I went to Duke University together. Jay was a great halfback there. The freshman year, that team went to the Cotton Bowl, and Mark Leggett and Mike Curtis and other people were terrific players.
Yeah, we had some great players then. We sure did.
You have done here what and I speak for myself, every son would like to do for his father. I mean, I would like to write, not so much write as much as to make a visual record of my father and through the voices of the people that were part of his life.
True.
But you have done something that is an incredible portrait of your father, expressing, you know, some of the highs of his life and some of the lows of his life, the period that was good for him, the period that was not good for him, some of the conflicts, and you end with you there the moment he died.
That's correct. I was with him, Charlie, 6 out of the last days of his life, and I went home just for the weekend. He declined just in a series of stages, and he was in a coma at the very end, but it was very important for me to be with him during the latter days.
You actually could feel the breathing, just you knew it was close to the end.
You really could. I had observed people dying before, but I'd never been with a patient dying through that period of time. And when we went to bed that night, I asked the nurse if they'd notify us because I was told that the breathing would decrease very rapidly. And it just so happened that I came in with my dad's wife, Donna, at the precise time that Dad's breathing started to labor, and very peacefully and very softly, and it was about 30 minutes during the final stages.
Why'd you want to write this book?
Well, for many years I'd encouraged Dad to share all the diverse aspects of his life in an autobiography. I knew that people were well aware of his great record at the University of Oklahoma that you just highlighted, but he also accomplished so very much in many diverse areas, such as government service, in broadcasting for 20 years, in business, was president of the U.S. Gymnast Federation when our country won the Olympic gold, and I thought that people would really be very curious and interested about what made this great man tick.
What made him tick?
I think it's a combination of things. I think good values, good home life, good principles. Dad's mother died when he was just 7 years old. They were in a very serious train accident, and his father was responsible, I think, for rearing Dad, and I think that he learned at a very young age, Charlie, that there was going to be adversity, there would be tragedies, there would be heartaches, but that you literally had to go forward with your life. And I think that basically gaining those values and principles at home built the foundation on which he became a great coach.
Yeah. As a strategist, what made him a great coach beyond the values that he brought to the field? Because he pioneered some developments in college football.
Well, that's true. He was a great innovator. He invented the 5-4 defense, which is commonly referred to as the Okie defense. I think also he was a great communicator, both verbally and in writing. He was able to instill in his players the proper values. He was able to explain to them why it was important to prepare. You know, it's tough to go out during the summer months when you're working construction, you're tired, and to work out maybe 2.5 hours. But I think Dad was able to communicate in very simple terms why it was important to subordinate your own personal egos for the good and the welfare of the organization.
Do you regret that you went to Duke and did not stay in Norman and play for your father?
Well, I think everything in life is a trade-off. Certainly I regretted the fact that I was not able to play under my father. I grew up in Norman, the great players, those were my heroes. They're still my heroes. But at the same time, I grew to love Duke. We had a great time together there, great teachers, and our football teams were quite good. I think it was important for both me and my brother to get out from under Dad's shadow, and he knew that. When I came along...
But was it a tough decision for the family for you to leave? For me, because you clearly could have played at Oklahoma.
It was for me. My older brother, Pat, is an ophthalmologist. He was an excellent student, and he went to Stanford. When I came along, I think Dad recognized I had the athletic talent to play at Oklahoma. Probably would have been their starting quarterback. So he left the decision up to me. And I really hadn't planned to go to Duke, but when I visited the campus, I loved it. I was very impressed with the academic excellence and the big-time football schedule. But of course then, it was a very difficult decision. I tried to explain that in the book, what it felt like. I had nothing but the comfort and the support, of course, from my dad. But we remained very close. through the years. When I was at Duke, I felt a lot of pressure academically as well as on the field, and I share several letters with the readers, and they incorporate a very sensitive, caring father.
Well, how difficult was it to grow up as the son of Bud Wilkinson? What's the pressure on someone?
I think the advantages, in my case, clearly outweigh the disadvantages. Dad was very patient, kind, loving father who also was very competitive. He expected us to do the very best that we could do at all times. I think the only thing that was different between my brother Pat and me and our classmates was the fact that our dad was famous, that he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and was on television all the time. That was a basic difference.
Let me show, can you come in, guys, at some of these pictures here? This is in 1961, President Kennedy appointed Bud Wilkinson to head the President's Council on Youth Fitness. Kennedy convinced Bud to accept the position by stressing how important it was to his administration. This is Bud Wilkinson and Dick Snyder. Here is Robert F. Kennedy and Bud Wilkinson. Here is Sam Rayburn. This is your mom on Election Day, 1964.
And Eisenhower there, of course, General
Eisenhower. And Eisenhower, here, I said Rayburn, that's Eisenhower,
Right.
And then Fred Harris. He ran for the Senate as a Republican.
He did.
He lost about 22,000 votes?
That's correct. That was in '64 with the Johnson landslide.
Yeah. How much of a blow was that to this man who'd won all of his life?
It was a terrible blow. I mentioned in the book, I think, along with the loss of his mother at an early age, the loss for the U.S. Senate in '64 was the greatest defeat that he suffered. But he didn't talk much about it. He didn't sit around complaining. As a matter of fact, that January 1, 1965, he was in the broadcast booth with Jim Simpson doing the Orange Bowl game against Alabama and
he was a natural
Texas.
Behind a microphone.
Well, he really was. He had a 20-year career, and he always said that if he had won that Senate race, he wouldn't have been able to have accomplished what he did in television and business and all the other things he did.
Did he? You ran for Congress, right? Yes.
That's right. Our family's 0-2.
Yeah.
And his dad said, "Defeated generals do not discuss the arts of war."
Or fight the last battle. But what did he want you to go into politics, or did he say, "Don't do this. This is a tough and cruel business. Football is tough enough, but this is even."
He left it up to me. You know, we're obviously
both Republicans.
Both Republicans, but I was caught up in what I refer to as the Kennedy idealism. When I left Duke, I went to theological school.
Right.
Spent one of my summers working in Boston in the slums, Roxbury, Dorchester, South End, when they were burning the cities. I was very committed to trying to play an active role, and I thought that government service would be a good way to do it. I ran also during a very tough year in 1970. Not many Republicans won that year, and I was running in a district 10-1, Democrat over Republican. It was a close race, but our family.
It was an off-year election in terms of Nixon had come in 1968.
That's
and
right.
This was 2 years later, the same election that faces Clinton now.
Just as you
2 years after 1992.
Just as you mentioned with Reverend Jackson, that's true. Off-election years do not appear to be good.
Any great regrets about your dad, Jay?
About his life?
No, about your relationship with him, I mean, you two seem to have what every father and son ought to have, which is communication, some ups and downs, but you clearly respected each other and talked to each other.
We had a very special relationship, Charlie, and I've told a lot of people when Dad died, I felt that there was nothing left that hadn't been spoken and hadn't been said. We talked about religion, we talked about government, politics, the whole realm throughout our lifetime, and I really didn't think that there was anything left. I felt very much loved by him, and I knew that he knew I loved him.
He remarried.
Yes, he did.
And Donna was with him at the end.
That's correct.
Second wife.
Dad and my mom were married 37 years, and that obviously was a very traumatic event when Dad became divorced. He was very concerned about it, very concerned about my mom also, but he remarried a year later, and he and Donna were married until he died.
Bud Wilkinson, an intimate portrait of an American legend. Jay Wilkinson wrote this book with Gretchen Hirsch, and the foreword was written by the head coach of the Fighting Irish, Lou Holtz. Great to have you, Jay.
Thanks, Charlie. Great being with you.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.